Spring it on with 40 to 70% off almost everything at Gap Factory and gapfactory.com. Matching styles for the family are on sale too. Shop it all through April 12th.
This is Donald Parham of the LA Chargers, and you're listening to Chargers Unleashed, part of the LAFB Network. Stay jiggy.
You have to be really intentional about putting a team together.
I was in!
Crawled out of the pound and started screaming.
How good is Joey Bosa?
Herbert, rolling, looking, throwing, end zone, touchdown! It's intercepted. Derwin James. Derwin was there.
You got to be on a mission every day in the NFL. But even more than that, you got to be on a mission together.
Great hands! Keenan Allen!
The Los Angeles Chargers select Rashawn Slater.
Asante Samuel Jr.
Stop! Oh, I'm stopping y'all boys. That's what I'm saying.
Intercepted! Picked up by Michael Davis.
Explosiveness from Eckler.
There's Marquee. Boy, he blew that up, didn't he?
It is picked off. Nasir Adderley.
50-50 ball is 100%. Mike Williams.
Ochena, Nwosu. And that will end it. Time to bolt up.
Welcome to another episode of Chargers Unleashed. Dan Wolkenstein here from the LAFB Network. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at LAC_Unleashed. If you're looking for year-round Chargers content, special guest episodes, be sure to subscribe to Chargers Unleashed on YouTube and wherever you find your podcast. This episode is brought to you by Brewery X, UFC Fit in Temecula, as well as Charger Bolt Family. For those watching or listening to the show for the first time, welcome and thank you for joining us. And for those returning and loyal Chargers Unleashed subscribers, we appreciate your continued support. Lucky for all of you, we've got a special guest with us today to help get us prepared for this marquee matchup between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. ESPN reporter and writer covering the Kansas City Chiefs. Not many know this Chiefs team more or better, as he's covered the team for over 20 years. You can find his work on ESPN and on Twitter at Adam Teicher. We are fortunate to be joined by ESPN's Adam Teicher. Adam, welcome to Chargers Unleashed. Excited to have you on the show.
Hey, how you guys doing out there today?
We are good. We are good. The weather in LA is beautiful, although we wish we could be playing in LA, but we are going to be playing in Kansas City this coming Sunday. Really looking forward to the discussion. We're going to be talking about all things Week 2 matchup versus the Chiefs. We'll get into getting to know the Kansas City Chiefs a bit, maybe some of the key matchups, what to expect. But let's start with how Chiefs have looked this year. We've got two tight games for the Chiefs so far versus the Browns and the Ravens. The team is 1-1. The offense looks like it hasn't missed a beat. Mahomes is still balling out. You got Tyreek Hill, Kelce. The defense does look to be struggling a bit. Now, you covered the team for a while. How are you feeling about the Chiefs this year? Like, are you as bullish about them this year as you have been in years past?
I was a lot more bullish about the Chiefs 2 weeks ago than I am right now. No one saw their defense starting the season like this. There's really no reason for it. They look good in training camp. I thought they were ready I thought they could be a surprise group this year, but they have been through 2 weeks, but it's a surprise bad because nothing is working right for the Chiefs defensively. They can't rush the quarterback. They have the league's worst pass rush win rate. They can't stop the run. They have the league's worst run stop win rate. So things not working out for the Chiefs no matter what they do defensively. And they're going to have to get these things fixed if they want to repeat in the AFC. So we'll see where this goes for the Chiefs. But I can't see that they won't get there with this type of defense. They're going to have to make some gains in just about every facet of their defensive game.
And I will say, we're all used to seeing kind of the Chiefs step it up as the season goes on, and the Chiefs defense getting better and better and making plays when it needs to. But this defense does look to be a little bit worse than what we've seen in years past. Now, switching over to the other side, the Chiefs' offensive line is completely overhauled this year. You guys went and got rid of some guys. You now have Orlando Brown Jr., Joe Thuney, Kyle Long. Then you drafted some studs, Creed Humphrey, which a lot of folks here really liked, and Lucas Niang. How has that group looked so far? I mean, I know they got beat up pretty bad the last few years. How has that group looked? And maybe what are some strengths and weaknesses that they bring?
Yeah, 5 new starters for the Chiefs. Not just 5 new starters, but 5 guys who weren't even with the team last year. So they basically started from scratch with that offensive line. 3 rookies are starting. Orlando Brown, a left tackle, who's trying to establish himself at what for him is a new position. And then they got Joe Thuney from New England. So, it's a completely new group. And they're showing some growing pains right now. There's some timing things that aren't working out quite right now. So you would expect, it's reasonable to think that's going to get better as the season goes on. But right now, still a little bit of a work in progress. So I feel like that group's going to have to be what the Chiefs hope it can be, that what they want it to be for the Chiefs to get where they want to go, because this is the first year in a long time the Chiefs have not brought in a significant skill player to their offense. In 2017, they drafted Patrick Mahomes, and then 2018, they signed Sammy Watkins. And then in 19 and 20, their top draft picks were a wide receiver and a running back. So this year, they really brought in nobody in terms of backs or receivers to help. So this offensive line is going to have to be the group that sort of raises their play and makes the Chiefs what we know them to be offensively.
Now, you mentioned the Chiefs' defensive woes, and we'll get back to that for just a second. They've allowed the most points per game in the NFL, which is obviously dead last in total defense as well. What is it about the defensive side of the ball that has brought so many struggles? I know you mentioned the win rate and no pass rush, but what are the coaches and players saying about the defense and what they're going to do to work on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're a determined bunch. I mean, there was guys who are mad and embarrassed about what's happened these last 2 weeks and the way the Chiefs have played. I mean, I sense the determination that I haven't seen in quite some time from that group. So, but my experience is that doesn't really help you on Sunday. You got to make the fixes. And right now, there's just a lot of things going wrong, and it's probably unrealistic to expect they can fix all of this in such a short period of time. It's going to take time if they can get it done at all. Basically, it's a lot of guys just not playing well right now. Tyrann Mathieu had a nice game. He missed the opener, had a nice game against Baltimore last week. Other than that, really no one's playing well. Chris Jones had a nice second half in the opener against the Browns, but didn't get much done against Baltimore last week. So, they played a couple opponents who were difficult for them to defend. There were matchup issues probably against both those teams. I think things are a little different against the Chargers. So maybe they can get back to maybe playing a little more of their game. But it's been ugly so far, and the Chiefs going to have to figure this out for sure.
Now let's get into this matchup. I think everyone in the league and covering this, both teams are excited for this. The first time Mahomes and Justin Herbert went up against each other, it was a last-second notice, and Herbert and the Chargers led that game wire to wire until the very end, where we lost on a very long field goal. What is Coach Andy Reid and the rest of the team kind of saying about facing off against Justin Herbert specifically?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of respect for Justin Herbert. I mean, he had a big game, 2 big games against the Chiefs last year, over 300 yards in each game, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. And the Chiefs are aware of what's going on here and what kind of it seems like Keenan Allen always has big games against the Chiefs. I bet his numbers against the Chiefs are better in his career, are better than they are against the other AFC West teams and maybe everybody else the Chargers might play. So there's a lot of respect. And you look back at the games between the teams the last couple of years, the Chiefs have won 3 of the 4, but not by much. I mean, it's been a razor's edge in all 3 of those games. So I feel like this you felt this rivalry maybe turning a little bit the last couple of years, and who knows where it's going to be. We'll find out on Sunday. But I don't feel like there's a whole lot of difference between these two, and part of the reason is because of Justin Herbert's arrival with the Chargers.
Now, and it is interesting because Justin Herbert has completely transformed not only this team, but I think the excitement around the city and the fans and everyone kind of re-energized. You saw last week at SoFi, first home game, you saw a ton of home fans there. And you hear the Chargers fans and local media talk about this team in the local perspective, like every day, talent, coaching, players. But we always like to kind of get like an outsider's view from opposing teams and fan bases. So I'm going to ask you, what is the pulse of Chiefs Kingdom and their feelings about the Chargers team just as a whole?
Yeah, it's hard for me to kind of characterize how the Chiefs fans feel about the Chargers. I mean, it's always been a great rivalry. I mean, that's I feel like of all the Chiefs AFC West rivals, this is the kind of the rivalry that's been the best in terms of the football played. Maybe the stakes haven't always been so high, but I feel like a lot of these games have been kind of legendary over the years. So from that aspect, I feel like this is going to be a great game because I had these two teams 1-2 in the division going into the season. I think the Chargers. I know there's been the injury issues the last couple of years with the Chargers, but I feel like this has been about the most underachieving team in the league. Now with Justin Herbert up and running. I feel like they're going to challenge the Chiefs. I felt that pretty strongly going into the season. So going to be interesting to see how this one plays out because I'd be disappointed in either side the losing side, if this isn't a close game on Sunday.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. They could. I mean, we've always said it, and especially about this Chargers team. Like on paper, these last few years, they have as much talent as any team in the league, but whether it's due to injury or poor coaching or just not performing well, they just have underperformed. And so you're hoping new coaching scheme, new kind of era with Justin Herbert, we can kind of change that around. And on that note, recent matchups, you mentioned 3 of the 4 have gone the Chiefs' way. And Chargers now have a healthy Derwin James. Drew Tranquill's back in the lineup. Joey Bosa seems to be refreshed, although he does have a little ankle thing going on right now. New coaching staff, rookie of the year, new offensive line for the Chargers. You got Kelce versus Derwin, Mahomes, Herbert, Coach Staley versus Andy Reid, Rashawn Slater, Chris. I mean, there's so many matchups here. They always play each other tough. Like for you, what are some of the key matchups you're honing in on this Sunday?
I think it's on the offensive versus defensive lines both ways. The Chiefs have not played well up front. I mean, that's been a weakness for them. And their pass rush in particular has been noticeably unproductive. I mean, Chris Jones has had a couple sacks in the opener at key times, but other than that, it's been pretty ugly for the Chiefs, very unproductive. And if that doesn't change on Sunday, then I think the Chiefs are going to be in for a long day. They're going to have to be able to get some pressure on Justin Herbert. And on the other side, where is this new Chiefs offensive line and what can Joey Bosa and those guys get done on Sunday against the Chiefs and Mahomes, and can what havoc can they play with the Chiefs in their passing game? So to me, those are the key matchups there because I feel like that's where the game's going to be won. Whoever maybe wins that pass rush battle will end up winning the game.
And it's amazing how you always hear about games are won and lost in the trenches. And both of these teams, the offensive line, have gotten completely revamped. And so which one of those wins, I think, is going to be a big indicator of who wins this game on Sunday. From the Chiefs' perspective, let's look at the team for a sec. From their perspective, what players or what scheme or what things tangibly scare them the most about the Chargers team?
Well, a lot of the things we talked about, Joey Bosa is a guy who can wreck a game for an opponent real fast. And we've seen that. He's done that against the Chiefs, from time to time over the years. So, that's a guy to keep an eye on. Certainly Justin Herbert. I mean, he really got the Chiefs' attention. You remember that game? I think it was in week 2 last year. He wasn't even supposed to play. Tyrod Taylor was supposed to start. And he had that freak thing with the injection and couldn't play. And all of a sudden, this guy comes out of nowhere and really plays well and almost should have won the game. The Chargers should have won. I felt like they outplayed the Chiefs that day. So, he's a guy who's got the Chiefs' attention. Again, Keenan Allen is a guy who always plays well against the Chiefs. He's had some big days against Kansas City. So, that's another guy I think the Chiefs are keeping an eye on.
We're wrapping up with Adam Teicher, ESPN reporter for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, let's fast forward to Sunday afternoon. Let's say you look at the headlines and you see Chargers defeat Kansas City Chiefs week 3. If that were to become the reality, what would the Chargers team have to do in order to get the win on Sunday?
I think they've exploited some of these matchups that we've talked about, that they've blocked Chris Jones and Frank Clark and the Chiefs pass rushers, which, again, hasn't been much of an ask so far this season. And, they get some pressure on Mahomes and disrupt the Kansas City passing game, because that's another area where I feel like the Chargers could have an advantage. So, turnovers always play into it, those things you can't predict. But I think on a down-to-down basis, winning up front, if the Chargers can win a good percentage of those snaps, both sides of the ball, I feel like they have a good chance of winning the game.
All right, so you mentioned it, predictions. I'll give you a chance here to shoot your shot. Matchup between these two teams on Sunday. What are your predictions? It could be a score, it could be statistics, it could be anything you want. Any predictions you have for this game on Sunday?
Yeah, my biggest predictions, I think it's going to be a close game. I feel like the Chiefs have played 2 close games this year. So have the Chargers, really, right? So why would we expect anything different? I feel like there's not a whole lot of difference in these teams in those terms. So I'm thinking it's going to come down to the fourth quarter, and whoever can make a play at the end is going to win. I've got the Chiefs winning 34-31 at ESPN. That's the prediction I made. I'm not real confident in that, though. I feel like if the Chargers have the ball at the end of the game, the way the Chiefs are playing defensively, that's bad news for Kansas City. So I'm going with the Chiefs here. But if the game were being played in LA, I'd probably feel differently about it. But it is at Arrowhead. That's certainly an advantage. And I feel like the Chiefs will win, but it wouldn't surprise me if it went the other way.
Look, this is a marquee matchup. It's in Arrowhead. We've got Jim Nance, Tony Romo going to be covering the game on Sunday. We are talking to Adam Teicher. Thank you so much for joining us on this. I know that you got a ton of stuff going on there in Kansas City. Big game on Sunday. I appreciate you taking the time. For folks who have not seen your work, folks need to check out all of Adam's work on ESPN.com. He writes incredible stuff. He actually just talked about some surprises and things he was expecting and not expecting with the Kansas City Chiefs that have come and not come to fruition so far. Again, you can find him on Twitter at Adam Teicher. Adam, anything else we can tell the good people about your work?
No, just read me at ESPN.com on the Chiefs page, and that's where my stories can be found.
Wonderful. Adam, thank you so much for all you do for covering the Chiefs. You've been doing it for a long time. One of the best in the business. And we'll talk to you soon. Okay, best of luck to your team on Sunday.
Thanks, Dan. This was fun.